Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Yeah, you know, we have a very poignant parasha to consider this morning, parashat Acherei Mot. And it goes this way. I'll begin it in Hebrew, and you'll pick up a lot of the words. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe, Acherei Mot, Shnei v'nei Aharon b'kirbatam lifnei Adonai v'yamutu. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron who died when they approached the Lord. The question we can begin with is, what happened? I mean, these are the two sons of Aaron who were appointed to work in the Mishkan, which had just been completed and the liturgy was being established. And why did they die? Well, let me just summarize what happened. You can read about it in Leviticus chapter 10. But essentially what happened is they decided to ad lib on the liturgy and offered sacrifices that were not the prescribed sacrifices. Or another way of understanding it, because it's not specific what they did wrong, is that they just didn't follow the appropriate order. Or they treated the sacrifices kind of lightly and perhaps with an element of disdain. Hard to know exactly, but whatever it was so serious that it cost them their lives, and they died on the spot. Really quite something. Now, we get some insight as to why God was so upset about their casual way of treating the korbanot, the sacrifices. And we read again from Leviticus chapter 10, the Lord says, "Among those who approach me, I will be proved holy. In the sight of all the people, I will be honored." And apparently, they did not honor him. And that's why at this critical moment of Israel's history, when things are just becoming solidified and the order of things is being clarified for everybody, these two men, young men, decided to trivialize it all, and it cost them their lives. And it's interesting, the rabbis have very mixed feelings about these two guys, about Aaron's two sons, Nadav and Abiram. And on the one hand, they're viewed as having really fouled up, and there's such an interesting midrash where it says this. I'll just read it to you. It is interesting. Once Moses and Aaron were walking down the road, and Nadav and Abihu were walking behind them. And Nadav turned to Abihu and said, when will these two elders die so that we can lead the generation? Okay. And God heard this and said, let's see who will bury whom. You know, kind of a dark comment there. On the other hand, there's a sympathetic view of them, at least to the extent that they were judged harshly because of their lofty position in Israel. So the offense itself might not have seemed quite so serious, but considering who they were and the responsibility they had, therefore, their lives were taken from them. Now, I would like to step behind this parsha and treat it a bit midrashically. I'd like to treat it in terms of a lesson that I see coming from this parsha, and I'll make that clear to you as we go along. I want to suggest to you that Aaron felt horrible, as we would expect a father to feel after losing his two kids. He felt horrible about what happened, and he felt powerless to change it. And he probably felt guilty because he said, if only I had raised those boys with more respect for God, maybe they wouldn't have offered this strange fire. And a lot of self-recrimination and blaming and endlessly rehearsing different events in their lives, and maybe he could have been a little tougher, or maybe he could have explained things better. And so we can imagine how hard it was for Aaron. And adding to the pain of losing those two boys was the fact that God told Moses to tell him, Aaron, you are not allowed to publicly grieve. You keep this to yourself. You are not allowed to say a word. about this. And you just had to, you can imagine the psychic pain that he was experiencing as he couldn't even ask everyone to sit shiva with him or to enter in to the confusion and the pain and all that he's experiencing. It's really quite a situation. Well, what I want to suggest is that in our chapter, he is taught how to lead the Yom Kippur liturgy. That's the focus of chapter 16 of the beginning of Acherei Mot. And it's that experience that I think is intended to bring about a measure of healing for him. And so we'll see how this works itself out. Again, this is not the pashat. This is not the literal meaning. The literal meaning of the passage is just to show Aaron and future generations of Kohanim, this is the right way to do things on the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. You don't want to mess this up. And so that's the pashat, or the literal meaning, but I'm looking behind it for how Aaron would have experienced this list of requirements for how he's supposed to lead the Yom Kippur liturgy. So we have to understand something about the Mishkan. Now, the Mishkan is the tabernacle, and it's the precursor to the temple in Jerusalem. And the Mishkan was built according to very specific directions, with all kinds of wonderful fabrics and all kinds of different elements, very valuable elements. And we don't have the time to get into it, but I will tell you this. The Mishkan is intended to picture a perfected world where God meets with his people. If you want to distill the Mishkan to its bare essential meaning, it is a perfected world, symbolically, a world in microcosm, a little model of the whole world in its perfection as God meets people. And this idea of the perfected world is expressed most magnificently in the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, which, does anyone know what shape the Holy of Holies was? Anybody? A cube, right? A cube. Why a cube? Because a cube has perfectly symmetrical dimensions. And in that sense, it is representative of a perfected universe, a universe where God is. Now, there are other meanings associated with the Mishkan, and it has to do with how people can enter into that perfected world. But you need to know that. So Aaron then is allowed to participate symbolically in reordering the world by his service in the Mishkan on Yom Kippur. It's not like it's a static Mishkan that's perfect. No, as a matter of fact, human beings are invited into the process of cooperating with God as his junior partners to make the world that perfected cube in the inner sanctum. And so here, Aaron is invited to participate with God in that. And that in itself, we imagine, we suggest, has its own healing quality. So God is saying, no matter how far beneath God we may be, he has made for us a way to get close to him. And Aaron leads the way, leads all Israel in this attempt to deal with his sense of inadequacy and guilt, confusion, all the anger. God says, hey, join me in this enactment to help Israel and yourself to experience connection with me, and therefore to find meaning in all that you have been through. And so we have the whole idea of sacrifices, which are a means of entering into that presence of God and participating in this amazing reality. See, Aaron is part of the process. He's asked to sprinkle the blood from a goat and a bull, and he is asked to sprinkle it on various elements in the Mishkan. He's asked to sprinkle it, to cleanse it. He's part of the process. Aaron, I know you, and I know your son sinned, and you feel horrible about it, but I'm loving you back a little bit, and I'm showing you how you can participate in something bigger than yourself by participating in the function of the Mishkan on the holy day of Yom Kippur. It's loving and it's being loved, and we have a lot more to say about that as we go along. Let's continue. So, Aaron is also dressed in resplendent clothing. Aaron is dressed in resplendent clothing. Why? Because, again, from the angle, this midrashic angle we're taking, it's an indication that mankind is headed for glory. Mankind is not always going to be suffering through self-inflicted wounds, disease, sickness, and ultimate death. No, that's not the destiny. The destiny of Israel, and by extension the nations, the righteous, are to experience resplendence in one day because that's God's purpose for humanity. And here, God graciously dresses Aaron in a way which emphasizes his destiny. He is not to be seen primarily as the absent father, the one who didn't teach his kids right, the one who makes mistakes and does good things too. No, God is saying, I see you in what you're going to be. Let me love you a little bit in the midst of your pain by allowing you to see the ultimate outcome of your life and of Kol Yisrael. So, Aaron receives God's love, and God receives Aaron's love by his executing his role in the Mishkan with attention to detail, with all of the proper accoutrements of worship, with all of the heart and tension that will glorify God in the presence of all the people. God gives love by allowing a grieving father to participate in the holy acts which help bring him healing. And Aaron reciprocates the love by loving God with the obedience of functioning the way he should in the Mishkan. Are you getting this, or am I just kind of missing you guys with this? You get it? Okay, good. Then we're going to continue on a little bit. There's another example that occurs to me. It's not a passage that we read today, but if you were here for Marty and his problem of stealing Rabbi Rich's best mouthpiece, using it for scuba gear, and losing it in the ocean, you had to be there. You had to be there, all right? You talked to Marty about it. But it's a passage that we talked about which comes from this idea of giving and receiving love. And so you recall what happened. Yeshua tells his followers, I'm going to be arrested and I'm going to be killed. He said it multiple times. But Kepha says to him, I am with you and I will never leave you, and no one is going to put a hand on you, Yeshua, because we think we know you're the Messiah, and you can count on me, your boy. I got your back. The revised nickel version of the story, but you get the idea. That's what he said. Now, how did it turn out? When Yeshua was arrested 3 times, Kepha denied him. And he felt absolutely horrible about it. And so, after the resurrection, Yeshua makes it a point to speak to him privately. And he asks him 3 times, do you love me? Remember the passage, everybody? Do you love me? The questions almost have the cadence of a liturgical thing. The cadence of it, the repetition, like liturgy. It's not liturgy, but it has that cadence. And in my mind, ties it to what we've read before. What is Yeshua doing by asking the question 3 times? He is, in a sense, nullifying the emotional impact of Peter's denial. 3 times, do you love me? Yes, I love you, Lord. Okay. Then feed my sheep. In other words, I accept that, and I am not going to leave you hanging in the wind, stuck with a guilty conscience for having done something wrong. I am welcoming you into this critical role as a leader among equals among my inner circle of followers. Do you love me? Yes, I do. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? You know I love you. Then feed my lambs. All the while, what's happening here is that this interaction of love given by Yeshua and love received and love given back by Kepha provides the kind of dynamic that I want to conclude with as we talk about one another and we talk about our community. You see, I've decided to entitle this message, Love Given, Love Received. Love given, love received. Now, we'll talk about our community for a minute. First of all, I want to tell you that in Jewish understanding, the synagogue is not the most important institution. What do you think is the most important institution given from heaven? What do you think? The home. Yeah, the family. And obviously, in different cultural contexts, families will be smaller or larger, but nonetheless, it's the home. That is where giving love and receiving love is modeled, is taught, is experienced, and with children helps prepare them for adulthood. Love given, love received. Now, let me just say that that's the way it's supposed to be, but it only works the way it should if all the parties involved say yes to it, and no one does it perfectly. But love between a husband and wife, if one says yes, I will love and I'm happy to receive love, the other says nothing doing, I'm just in the receiving business, it doesn't work. And there's a whole different sermon for those kind of circumstances. But what I'm talking about is the way it's supposed to be. Your wife is tired and you say, honey, don't worry, I'm making breakfast and I'm going to make something special for you. That's love given. Love received, hey, thanks so much, I really appreciate it. That is the dynamic. That is what God is modeling for us by loving Aaron and by receiving love from Aaron. Yeshua loving Kepha and receiving love in return. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now, in the synagogue, this assumes certain things, like being together is best. We're so glad for the electronic miracles, as someone prayed earlier, of Zoom. It's great, and all of you can be with us in Zoom land, and we're thrilled. And some of you far away, we hope you'll be with us forever. But really, love given, love received in the congregational context, it really works best when you're actually together. It can still work, but we look forward to our Saturday outdoor services, which will be starting soon, and more of you will be coming, and we're thrilled about that because the congregational life can't work in the two-dimensional world of the internet best. It can work to a degree. It is not best, and so we never want to take our eye off the prize. But love given, loved, received. Hey, I want to talk about love given. Do you know how much effort there is involved in pulling off these services with the Zoom component, the musical component, the liturgy, the speaking? It's a lot. And I want to share a little love this morning. I'd like us all to love some people. How about Rabbi Nathan for the great job he does every week leading services? Or what about Raina, mother of 6, plays guitar, helps with a million different things? What about Dave? Helps out all the time. Yeah, Serena's helping out new. We're even getting, we're getting the kids into the act. This is good stuff. What about Tyson and Ken? Sound, are you kidding me? These guys knock themselves out. And those of you who have been in Zoom land, you haven't been back in the sanctuary, wait until you see the beautiful furnishings that have been made for this sanctuary out of love. See, this is big stuff. This is giving love. Ken, and what about Chaim? Chaim helps out. This kid helps out. He's not even bar mitzvah yet. He's helping out. We got Ralph. We got Debbie. What about Debbie with Shabbat school? And Sue also. And how about Shayna, who makes everything work? What will we do without our Shayna? Yeah, we're clapping big time. You clap at home too. This is love given. And I hope all of you that we're naming, it's love received. God is smiling on you because you're putting other people first, the community first, and that is a beautiful thing in His sight. And that's the way it is, okay? So love given, love received, okay? Now, I want to talk about some love giving that all of us need to do. I'm a little concerned. I hear from our finance director that our giving, our tithes and offering are down. We need your love, gang. We need your love. We need your love. You got to take care of the house. You got to take care of the family. You got to take care of your larger congregational family. Be generous. And I want to tell you something. Though I think it's absolutely wrong to get into a mentality like if I invest this much, I should get back that much. Forget about it. Don't think in those terms. But I will say that for those who take giving seriously, you do have a sense that works itself out, and I've experienced this myself, in actuality, that you really do experience the blessing of God where there's no money and all of a sudden things work out better than you thought. Be a giver. Show love and receive God's love for having done that and the community's love for that. Very, very important. Now, I want to give you one more example before we close. I want to talk about love given, love received, because that's the whole purpose today, right? So, the day before yesterday, a day before that, I had a talk with a congregant who I'm not going to name. I think a lot of you will know who she is, but I just feel it appropriate not to name at this point. And this lady and this family has been going through the mill this past year like forget it. Really, really tough circumstances that 5 years ago no one could have predicted, and yet here it is. And it has been really tough. And we had a long talk on the phone. We prayed together, and that was great. Well, the next day, a major answered prayer came, and I don't attribute it just to my prayers. I think it was to all of our prayers. A major, double major answered prayer, a resolution to the problem that she is facing at a level that she was flying like a kite, and she wrote a number of prayer people in the congregation, people who have been praying for her. And I'll tell you, you know how your phone is when you get texts from people who are back and forth and, ding, 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 ding. You know all those dings? It was so many of you saying, oh, we're so happy for you. This is great. Baruch Hashem always answered our prayers. Love expressed to this courageous woman, this courageous family during a tough time. That's giving and receiving. She received that love. That's giving and receiving in a congregational context. It doesn't get much better than that, gang. Love given, love received. So, in conclusion, what do we really need in life? Well, you need a lot of things. You need you need money for food. You got to have clothing. You got to live at a place that's safe. All given. Those are the basic necessities. But what do you need? You need a community where love and trust grow. That's what you need. Food, clothing, shelter. Yes, of course. A measure of good health. Take your vitamins, of course. We believe in that. That's all good. But most of all, we need to know and to walk together with God, learning how to both give and to receive love. That's it. This is the big message of our Torah portion, made most concrete, most real, most accessible in our Messiah, Yeshua, who is the great giver and the one who, as we celebrate the Aleinu in just a moment, will be the one to receive the accolades and praise of all the creation, all the intelligent creations of the universe, because the Lamb was slain and is alive and is coming back to make things right in this world. Can you say thank you to God for that? I can. Shabbat shalom, everyone.